Today I'm going to be talking you through one of my new favorite art projects, which is painting on a black canvas. This isn't super different from painting on a white canvas, which is what most of the canvases you can buy are. It's a little different for a couple reasons. One of them is that it forces you to use a lot more paint and a lot more layers of paint to cover up the black. One color probably won't be enough. You need to use a lot of white. I ended up mixing white with most of the different colors that I put on here, and that makes them look a little more pastel, makes them jump out a little bit more, but you can still see some of those darker colors poking through the background. And this ends up looking a little more true to life too, because if you walk outside and you look up at the sky, most of the time it's not one color, right? Also, one thing you might want to do is use some colors that are maybe not as obvious. Usually when we think of mountains, we think of green. I decided to paint mine yellow. Kind of looks like it's a sunny day where the light's hitting the mountains and making them really bright. And throughout this whole painting, you're going to see me trying a whole bunch of things. I didn't necessarily like everything that I tried, at least not on the first time. But just because you put it on the painting doesn't mean it has to stay there. You can cover it up, you can blend it in. You can put a brighter color over top of it, which is what I'm doing with these trees. See how they really pop now that they've got that bright red on top of the yellow? It's kind of fun to look at, right? Like a little Dr. Seuss forest. I was kind of inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia, where they have the castle between the two hills. But I didn't really like the way I made this castle. I used a thin brush, and I didn't get very much control. My lines were kind of sloppy looking. So I'm using a thicker brush, a wide flat brush, and I'm just going to cover over a bunch of different things in the painting to sort of flatten them so that I can put more paint on top. Now it's not so wet, it's just kind of real close to the canvas. And now I'm using this wide flat brush. I'm going to hold it up in just a second so you can take a look at it. There we go. This wide flat brush. And I'm going to use this to do a couple things. One is that I'm going to put a lot of color in an area with the broad side, and then I'm going to cover it over with a lighter area. Another thing that I'm going to do with this brush is I'm going to use just the thin side of it to do some outlining. Almost kind of like I would if I were using a pen or a pencil. This is basically the same thing that you would try to do with a thin brush, except you have a lot more control. You're sort of using it like a stamp and just running it vertically along the side of the canvas. Going to outline the shape of another house, and you're going to see me outline several things. I was having a lot of fun drawing with the side of this broad brush like a stamp. Alright, sometimes when I'm painting, I'm lazy. I didn't want to dip into another color right after I painted those pink houses, so I started putting pink leaves. And then I started layering some colors on top of that. Layering is a word that you've probably heard me use a lot in this little tutorial. The difference between a good painting and a bad painting is just about half a dozen layers of paint, I think. Sometimes the most interesting parts of a painting are where something's been covered up so many times and you can see all the different colors poking through behind it. Really makes it feel like you're looking far deep into space, like maybe that sky back there goes on forever. Again, I didn't really like this. I thought like I kind of messed up what was a pretty blue color behind that, but I wasn't stressed because I knew that I could just put more layers and fix it. So I put more layers over that sky, and that gave me a great opportunity to put some fluffy little clouds. I tried to do some outlining with a thin brush on these houses, and I didn't like it. I didn't get very much control. It wasn't as thin as I wanted it to be, so I covered over it. And now I'm going to use that flat, broad brush again, and just kind of use the side of it like a stamp to try to get those same sort of outlines. I think that's a much more successful technique for this painting anyway. And there you have it. That's what I came up with. If this was helpful to you, great. If you watched this and thought, you know, I want to make something completely different than what he made, that's great too. Hope you have a fun time painting, and let me know how you liked the black canvas.